This is absolutely shocking as Gordon Hayward has officially announced his retirement this afternoon from the NBA, and a lot of Celtics fans and NBA fans are confused and questioning this decision by Hayward. Did he retire due to the fact that he was too old and couldn't sustain his injuries, or could he have had another run in the NBA on a veteran minimum contract, possibly even with the Boston Celtics? We'll be diving in and exploring all of those discussions and topics on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Velez. You guys have been absolutely fantastic showing your support and tuning into the daily content that we upload. So if you make sure you want to stay up to date and get that content, hit the like button to stay in the algorithm. Without further ado, let's dive into the topic at hand. Make sure to grab a snack. And like I mentioned in the introduction, Gordon Hayward has officially announced his retirement this afternoon. And it is a very sad afternoon for Celtics fans and fans across the NBA who have grown up and watched Gordon Hayward play. We want to look at this tweet from Shams Charania, we can see that after 14 NBA seasons, Gordon Hayward is officially retiring. Hayward, who is 34 years old and was a 2017 NBA All-Star for Utah when he played for the Jazz, has also played alongside with the Celtics, Hornets, and Oklahoma City Thunder. Across his career, he was the number 9th pick in the 2010 draft after starring at Butler alongside Celtics GM and old head coach Brad Stevens. Now, Gordon Hayward retiring from the NBA is shocking to me and I think to a lot of other people. One, it just makes me feel older because players like Gordon Hayward and Kemba Walker and Blake Griffin, all ex-Boston Celtics who have all retired in the last couple months or so, I would say 3 to 4 months, it's absolutely crazy to see that all three of these guys are done from the NBA. Players that I grew up watching, players that I watched play at Oklahoma, players that I watched play at UConn, players that I watched play at Butler in college and grow through the NBA have finally gone through their careers and have officially retired. And even though some of those careers may have ended early due to some injury stints from all three of those players, and maybe for Hayward and Walker, maybe not necessarily for Griffin, but not having the best tenure after the Boston Celtics being on this team, it is kind of shocking to see. Like we mentioned, Hayward from the 2010 draft, there are plenty of players that are from the 2020 10 draft and earlier that are still in the NBA, players around that age, but it is crazy to see that, around 36, 37 years old, that this man, Gordon Hayward, is officially hanging it up. Now, it is sad because Gordon Hayward, as we all know, suffered that injury with the Boston Celtics in his first regular season game once he was acquired, and that kind of started the chain events for Gordon Hayward, unfortunately, for the rest of his career, where he never got to be bounce back and be that guy from Utah, and the Celtics fans never ultimately got to see that version of Gordon Hayward. Utah was the only primarily destination that got to see that, obviously. Now, he was a very successful wing in Utah, was very, very great on it as a two-way player, great as a scorer, and then obviously came over to Boston, suffered that injury, was never able to fully recover from that, and then was still given a max contract going over to Charlotte. In Charlotte, he still had some injury lingering seasons, maybe not as big as with the Celtics, but still had some injury riddled seasons and can never fully get to himself until he was traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder at the trade deadline this year when the Charlotte Hornets decided to move off of some of their cap and to go into the tankier direction for the second half of the season. Ultimately, Hayward was viewed to maybe be a bounce back guy, maybe be a guy on the Oklahoma City Thunder that could be an integral piece to help out off their bench. But ultimately, he just looked a little too slow, just wasn't that guy on the defensive side, and offensively could not get it going. Unfortunately for Hayward, that is going to be his last stint. That is going to be his last, kind of show at the NBA due to the fact that he has officially announced his retirement and has said goodbye to the NBA. But I think that this is very shocking for NBA fans and like myself because I still think, like myself, that a lot of people believe that Gordon Hayward could still be in this NBA and on a veteran minimum contract. Maybe not be the best player for you on your team, but still could contribute in some aspects, regardless if it's a veteran role, regardless if it's a locker room guy, maybe playing 5 to 10 minutes a night sporadically. He could still be that type of role for you in the locker room. And personally, for me, that's where it kind of gets confusing with this situation. So let me know what you guys think about Gordon Hayward retiring. That gets into the next part where did he have more left in him? Personally, I think he did. Now, we want to look at his stats from last season. We can see he averaged around 9.8 points on 3.5 rebounds and 3.1 assists, on 46% shooting from the field, 41% from three, and 42% from the corner three. Now, Hayward, when he was in Charlotte, did have better numbers and did look a lot better than when he did in Oklahoma City. I will say that 100%. When Gordon Hayward was in Oklahoma City, towards that second half of the season and going into the playoffs, it just was not looking good for our guy here. And that's ultimately where I think he kind of falls badly here, is because a lot of teams that saw Gordon Hayward in this playoff role, in this kind of, veteran role, kind of expected him to, bounce back and maybe be a decent version of himself to work himself for another contract next season. Ultimately, that just didn't happen. He didn't look that great in Oklahoma City for the playoffs, helping them out at the end of their bench. And I think that's what kind of teams got. They said, you know what? We're not going to give him a big contract. Tyus Jones and Gary Trent Jr., they have to take veteran minimum. So a guy like Gordon Hayward's going to have to take a veteran minimum regardless. But even if we want Gordon Hayward, what's he going to bring to us? What's he going to value to us? Is he going to be some three-point shooting? Is he going to be some scoring off the bench? Yes. He's not going to bring any defense. He's not going to bring any help at that side at all. He is a little bit too slow with all the injuries that he has accumulated over the years. And ultimately, I think he's just kind of a bench scorer. Now, not just myself, but a lot of other people are also shocked that Hayward did not get signed as well. Because if you look at this tweet from Evan Cedery, from just yesterday, he tweeted out the best available NBA free agents entering August. And look at number 3 on that list. Gordon Hayward is right there. So Hayward, even though this class of free agents wasn't the best and wasn't the biggest and brightest, it still has some potential names in here that could make some impact pieces as some veteran role pieces or as some pieces on the end of a bench or even just helping out a young team as a good locker room piece. And I think that Gordon Hayward could have either been a good contributor as a 10th, 11th man off the bench or just a good locker room piece or maybe even an 8th, 9th man just to help out if you have some injuries. That's where I kind of saw him kind of playing. And yeah, maybe not have been on a prolific team or one of the better teams in the NBA, but could have been on a kind of middle of the pack Western Conference team, maybe a team like the Rockets, or maybe a team like the Grizzlies who have some young guys. Bringing on a guy like Gordon Hayward could be a good veteran guy for them. But with the roster spots, the CBA, the new rules, it's hard to move off of guys. It's hard to sign guys, and a lot of teams don't have these free open roster spots just to give up for guys. To get guys off of their contracts, they'd have to buy them out, and those teams aren't worth doing that. So maybe Gordon Hayward realized there was no contract out there for him, and there was no opportunity for him to play, and he decided to hang it up. Ultimately, I think that's the case. I know a lot of Celtics fans were praying for him and wanting him to come as well, which kind of gets why Celtics fans really wanted him back. And ultimately, I think it was just Celtics fans in general just loving Gordon Hayward, seeing Gordon Hayward, the hype for Gordon Hayward. Let's not forget when Hayward was anticipated to come to Boston, it was a three-way race between Utah, Miami, and Boston. And it was the spectacle of free agency that year. He was in Utah at first, then he was in Boston, then he went to Miami, then there was the rumors that he was signing with Miami, and then there was the banners already posted up and everything. Welcome Gordon Hayward, all that type of stuff. And things just were very, very crazy that offseason. He ultimately decided to go to Boston, sign with Brad Stevens, and play for his old coach at Butler, which I think was the best move for him in his direction at that mind. And let's just think, if Gordon Hayward never gets that injury, who knows how the Celtics team is formed? Like Kyrie maybe stays, Hayward maybe stays. Maybe there's more discomfort and disgruntled stuff between those players. Who's to say that Brown or Tatum mold into the players that they are now, or maybe their growth was stunted and we moved off of one of them and now they're a prolific player at another team. There are so many question marks, so many variables, so many just random things that could have happened with this Gordon Hayward acquisition. And for us, we've obviously seen the plan that it has given us. It was obviously a lot of work, a lot of frustration through the years, but eventually the Celtics were able to get Banner 18 this season. But realistically, when looking at this, Gordon Hayward was a top tier player. He would have been a nice impact. Now for the Celtics this year, I don't necessarily think so. I think that we already have those type of players in Pritchard and Shireman and Hauser off the bench as those offensive spark plugs. And I do think we need some defensive spark plugs kind of off the bench at this point. So maybe a guy like Hayward wouldn't have been a guy for the Celtics to go at now, but I do believe some other teams would have given him a veteran contract, regardless if he was a locker room guy, regardless if he was a guy basically at the end of the bench, 9th, 10th man, maybe sparring some injuries, get some role time. I think he could have gotten it, but who knows? Maybe Gordon Hayward made the decision. He didn't want to play anymore. He just wanted to play League of Legends. He wanted to retire. He had a great career. He already felt fulfilled with it, and that's the decision he ultimately gets to make. Regardless of the fact, we wish Gordon Hayward nothing but the best of luck in his endeavors after his professional NBA career. And let's see what happens with Gordon Hayward here. Celtics legend, even though he wasn't here for the long haul, Celtics fans knew the hype for getting Gordon Hayward. We're very excited when Gordon Hayward arrived, and due to the fact that he did suffer that injury, I think Celtics fans have never strayed away from that Gordon Hayward love that they always brought when he came here to Boston. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of Celtics Digest, where we broke down this retiring of an ex-Boston Celtic. Once again, we have the weekly live streams starting back up. We started them yesterday. Wednesdays nights, they will be at 6 p.m. If you want an update on those, that's what they'll be. You want to make sure you stay up to date on everything revolving around Celtics Digest. Check the links in the description. Follow us on Twitter at Celtics Digest YT to get updates on Celtic stuff that just doesn't get posted on here. And also check us out in Discord link where you can join down below. It's basically a Reddit talk in the Celtics chat, talk with the other NBA teams, chats that we have, and just interact with myself on a more personal level if you want to do that. Without further ado, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. It's been absolutely fantastic. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day and go Boston Celtics.